Alright everyone, my name is C-Tactics and I'm here to give you my no-nonsense recap for Bleach The 1,000-Year Blood War Part 2. You can check out my recap for Part 1 in the cards at the top right. If you do at all find this video helpful, as well drop me a like and subscribe. I'll be covering Part 3 of the Blood War weekly on this channel. Also, check out my partner GamerSubs. Using code C-Tactics will get you 10% off all of your orders site-wide. I recommend the flavor Jujutsu Kaisen Cursed Energy. Let's get into the video. Ichigo's journey to master his power kicks off as he begins intense training under Ichibei Hyosube, the leader of Squad Zero. Ichibei takes Ichigo to a special realm within the Royal Palace, a place that only the Soul King himself has granted access to. It is here that Ichigo must push beyond his limits to gain the strength needed for battle. Meanwhile, back in Wadenreich, Yahabaha stirs the pot by announcing that Uryu Ishida will be his successor, a decision that throws the Sternritters into chaos. Bazb, outraged by the announcement, sees Hashwolf as the true heir, creating a rift among the Quincy ranks. Cooler heads prevail though as Askin steps in to stop a potential clash between Bazb and Hashwolf. Elsewhere, Orihime, with Chad undergoing training in Hueco Mundo, while Urahara delves into the secrets of the Quincy Medallion. At the same time, Captain Kyoraku makes a crucial move by granting Ichigo's human friends a soul ticket, a safeguard in case Ichigo's immense spiritual pressure becomes too overwhelming for the human world. In the Royal Palace, Rukia and Renji continue honing their skills, determined to grow stronger, while Byakuya recovers with the help of Kirinji. But as these preparations unfold, a dark and foreboding dome engulfs the Serete. The Quincy army rises, led by Yuhabaha, who boldly declares his plan to reclaim the world within the next 9 days, echoing the grim prophecy of the Quincy song, the Kaiser Gusung. The Wadenreich launches its second wave of destruction upon the Serete, with Hashwolf orchestrating the battle, commanding the Sternritters to use the stolen Bankais against the very captains they were taken from. Chaos erupts across the Serete as Quincy soldiers, the Soldats, flood the streets, clashing with Soul Reapers in a brutal, all-out war. The 12th Squad barracks, Askin makes an appearance, revealing that the Quincy stronghold, the Wadenreich, has been hidden within the shadows of the Serete all along. Created with Quincy powers, it allowed them to observe everything in secrecy, making their attacks devastatingly precise. However, Mayuri, ever the unpredictable, emerges from his secret lab, which was concealed in an area of blinding brightness, rendering the Quincy's shadow-based techniques useless. Alongside his assistant Nemu, Mayuri boasts about having developed countermeasures against the Quincy's transportation abilities. Frustrated by Mayuri's unrelenting ingenuity, Askin decides to leave rather than waste time in a futile battle. On the battlefield, Hashwolf faces head captain Kyoraku and Nanao Issei. Both Nanao, always a step ahead, unleashes a complex and powerful Kido spell to hold the Sternritter at bay. Elsewhere, the battle raging on, Captain Toshiro Hitsugaya and his lieutenant Rangiku Matsumoto clash with Sternritter H, Bazb, whose fire-based abilities quickly prove overwhelming. The two Soul Reapers fight valiantly, even combining their powers, in a desperate attempt to stop Bazb, but his strength far exceeds theirs. Bazb beats Hitsugaya down, and just as the situation looks grim, Sternritter I, Kong Du, steps in wielding Hitsugaya's own stolen Bankai to deliver what seems like a fatal blow. Meanwhile, over in Squad 2's barracks, Lieutenant Marichiyo Omaida fights to protect his little sister from the cold and calculating Sternritter K, BG9. But just as BG9 prepares to strike, Captain Soifan arrives to defend them. Despite her best efforts, Soifan finds herself severely wounded by the relentless attacks of BG9. As hope begins to wane, salvation comes in the form of a transmission from Urahara, who contacts Mayuri with incredible news. He has devised a way to reclaim the stolen Bankais. Kong Du, now revealing that he has already incapacitated Rangiku, prepares to finish off Hitsugaya with his own stolen Bankai while Bazb departs, leaving the final blow to his fellow Sternritter. Meanwhile, Urahara arrives at the 12th Squad barracks and shares his crucial discovery with Mayuri. After observing Opie's inability to fully control the Reishi absorbed from the Arankars, Urahara devised a solution. The Shin Eyaku, a black pill capable of temporarily hollowifying the captain's bankais. This reminds me of a certain pill from the beginning of the series. This transformation turns the bankais into a poisonous force against the Quincy, preventing them from being stolen or manipulated further. Urahara had already sent these pills to all of the captains known to wield bankai. Hitsugaya, on the brink of defeat, touches the Shin-Eyaku sent to him and, with his bankai now hollowified, regains control of his power. This transformation strengthens him, and he decisively defeats Kong Du before collapsing from the strain. Elsewhere, BG9, sensing Soifan's weakness, moves to harvest her incapacitated form. Gruesome. But Omaida, desperate to save his captain, gives her the pill. Soifan quickly regains her bankai, and in her hollified state, she obliterates BG9. As battles rage across the Serete, Squad 5 Captain Shinji Hirako finds himself surrounded by dozens of soldats after they had slaughtered his squad. However, this only serves as the perfect opportunity for Shinji to unleash his bankai, Sakashima, Yokoshima, Happo, Fusagari. This fearsome power inverts the perception of friend and foe, causing the soldats to slaughter each other, unable to distinguish between allies and enemies. This carnage leaves Shinji untouched, allowing him to proceed with the mission. Elsewhere, 11th Squad 5th Seat Yumichika, 9th Squad Lieutenant Shuhei, and the 11th Squad 3rd Seat Ikaku prepare to face Sternritter-esque Masque de Masculine. Despite absorbing the Shin-Eyaku, they are no match for Masque de Masculine, who crashes down upon them, claiming glory for himself and effortlessly countering their attacks, leaving them in a brutalized state. Meanwhile, Sternritter E Bombietta Basterbine leads her squad in search of 7th Squad Captain Seijin Komamura. However, her incessant ranting and erratic behavior drive her own squad members to abandon her. Enraged by their betrayal, Bombietta unleashes her explosive power, decimating the surrounding area. Komamura arrives just in time, clad in full armor, determined to avenge Captain Commander Yamamoto by eliminating Yuhabaha. Before engaging, Shinji appears using his Shikai to completely disorient Bombietta, turning her world upside down and toying with her perceptions. A fitting outcome indeed, I must say. In a desperate bid, Bombietta and the other fallen Sternritters activate their Volkständig, I think is how you pronounce it. I don't know. I'm not German. Ready to unleash their ultimate powers to turn the tide of battle once again. Meanwhile, in the Soul Palace, Ichigo continues his arduous journey through a dark corridor filled with overwhelming pain, immense spiritual pressure, and vivid visions. As he presses forward, these visions become incredibly clear, depicting a man submerged in a pool of reishi, an image that begins to solidify into the figure of the Soul King himself. Bombietta, now with her Volkständig form, I think, instantly unleashes her explosive power on Shinji, blowing him away before he has time to react. As Shinji is incapacitated, 7th Squad Captain Seijin Komamura and 5th Squad Lieutenant Momo Hinamori intervene. Hinamori quickly tends to Shinji and takes him to safety, while Komamura holds the line against Bombietta's relentless onslaught. In the ensuing clash, Bombietta smugly reveals that her ability isn't simply about creating bombs, but instead involves turning anything her reishi projectiles touch into an explosion. She explains that her attacks cannot be defended against by conventional means, making her power nearly unbeatable. She fires several reishi blasts at Komamura, blowing away his helmet, revealing something shocking: his new human form. Komamura reveals the price he paid for this transformation by tearing out his own heart and offering it to his clan elder. He unlocked his clan's secret humanization technique. This sacrifice grants him a human body, virtually making him immortal and invulnerable. Now, without the restrictions of his former wolf body, Komamura summons his bankai, Kokujo Tengen Myo-o. Stripped of its former armor, the giant samurai is also invincible and no longer suffers the vulnerabilities it once had. Komamura fights back by using Bombietta's own exploding reishi against her, slamming her with immense force. Though Bombietta's power is devastating, Komamura's newly gained invulnerability allows him to persevere and overpower her. However, Komamura's relentless push toward his ultimate goal, avenging Yamamoto by confronting Yuhabaha, takes a devastating toll. As he hurries towards the battlefield, his heart finally gives out due to the strain of his transformation. transformation, and he reverts to a full, non-human wolf, aka a furry. Now he's unable to speak or move. His lieutenant, Tetsuzaimon Iba, arrives just in time, lifting the now silent and defeated Komamura to safety, carrying him away from the battlefield. Meanwhile, Bombietta, gravely injured and on the verge of death, is retrieved by her squad members, who remain loyal even in her final moments. At the same time, the defeated Kong-do and BG9 are collected by Uryu Ishida, who now steps in as Yhwach's chosen successor, symbolizing the growing tension between the Quincy ranks. Elsewhere, Hashwolf returns to Yhwach's side, reaffirming his loyalty, and Masque des Masculins effortlessly defeats his opponents thanks to the constant support from his fan James. Just as he prepares to finish off Hisagi, Ikaku, and Yumichika, Mask is stopped by the sudden arrival of 9th Squad Captain Kinsei Muguruma and 3rd Squad Captain Rojiro Rose Otoribashi. Meanwhile, in the Soul Palace, Ichibe Hyosube reveals to Ichigo that he has been witnessing and absorbing the past of the Soul Society through the power of the Soul King. Having successfully internalized the ancient power, Ichigo moves forward, ready for the next stage of his training as he heads towards Shinjumaru Shutara's place. Kyoraku, now fully aware of the dire situation, orders all remaining Soul Reapers to regroup at the safe locations under Mayuri's command, utilizing the 12th Division's advanced strategies to protect themselves against the Quincy onslaught. Meanwhile, the battle between Kinsei and Masque des Masculins intensifies. Kinsei, determined to end the fight swiftly, activates his Bankai, Tekken Tachikaze, and delivers a brutal series of punches to Mask. For a brief moment, it seems Kinsei has secured victory, but Mask is revitalized by the relentless cheers of his fan, James? Rising stronger than before, Mask overwhelms Kinsei, leaving him critically injured. As Kinsei lies defeated, Shuhei, though badly wounded, warns Rojiro about the true source of Mask's power, James's cheers? Rose quickly eliminates James, cutting off Mask's endless supply of energy. Following this, Rose activates his Bankai, Kinsharu Butadon, a Zanpakuto that manipulates illusions through sound, using both fire and water attacks to confuse and overwhelm Mask. Despite the assault, Mask deduces that no Zanpakuto should have the ability to control both elements. Rose smugly confirms that his Bankai's powers are purely illusionary, meant to deceive rather than physically manipulate the battlefield. Realizing this, Mask bursts his own eardrums to nullify the sound-based illusions. Jesus Christ. With his hearing destroyed, he breaks free from Rose's trap and retaliates, blasting a devastating star-shaped hole through the 3rd Division captain, leaving Rose on the verge of death. Before Mask can deliver the final blow to both Rose and Kinsei, Renji arrives in the nick of time, effortlessly blocking Mask's attack. Rukia, best girl, Queen Slay, soon follows, having completed her training alongside Renji under the guidance of Squad Zero. While Rukia tends to the wounded captains and takes them to Isane Kotetsu for treatment, Renji faces Mask alone, completely unfazed by Mask's attacks. Renji reveals the fruits of his training. Mask, desperate to claim victory, activates his Vollständig and unleashes his most powerful Reishi attack on Renji. In doing so, he accidentally incinerates James, his last source of strength. However, Renji withstands the onslaught with his newly complete Bankai, So-o Zabimaru. Renji explains that in the past, he couldn't fully wield Zabimaru because the Zanpakuto hadn't fully accepted him, but now their bond is complete. Renji unleashes his Bankai, obliterating Masque des Masculins with James gone and no one left to cheer him on. Masks is unable to regenerate or return, marking the end of his reign of terror. In case you missed it, in the post-credits scene, Yhwach stands before Uryu, absorbing the Reishi particles of Masque des Masculins, a grim reminder of his power to consume and assimilate those who fall under his rule. Yhwach then steps into the shadows, and from that shadow emerges Jugrim Hashwolf. Confused by the sudden shift, Uryu questions Hashwolf's presence, only to be met with a cryptic explanation. Hashwolf reveals that not only are he and Yhwach connected, but Yhwach is linked to all Quincy's, a connection that extends deep into their very being. As Uryu is now chosen as Yhwach's successor, Hashwolf decides it is time for Uryu to learn the truth about Yhwach, his origins, and the source of his godlike powers. After completing his rigorous training with Squad Zero, Ichigo begins his descent back to the Sarate, filled with new power and a deeper understanding of his abilities. As he falls through the skies, Ichigo informs Urahara of his arrival, signaling a crucial moment in the battle against the Quincy invasion. Meanwhile, in the Wadenreich stronghold, Uryu witnesses Jugrum executing BG9 and Kongdu for their failures in combat. In this cold moment, Hashwolf reveals a horrifying truth. Those who are granted a portion of Yhwach's soul not only receive power, but are also doomed to have their soul, knowledge, and abilities absorbed back into Yhwach upon their death. This revelation shakes Uryu as he begins to understand the grim fate that awaits every Stern Ritter, himself included. Back in the Sarate, Rukia is patrolling the battlefield when she senses the sinister presence of Stern Ritter F, who has come searching for Byakuya Shinbanzakura. However, Rukia has completed her own training and learned the true nature of her Sanbakuto. Now she can lower her body temperature and anything she touches to absolute zero, wielding her freezing powers with precision, confident in her new strength. Rukia engages F, swiftly freezing him in place. Angered by her seeming indifference to fear, F activates the Vollständig, transforming his body into a grotesque form that instills fear with a mere glance. In a fleeting moment of hesitation, Rukia is ensnared by the effects of F's fear. Just as it seems she may falter, Byakuya appears, recognizing her remarkable growth. Despite F's taunts, Byakuya steps aside, allowing Rukia in an awesome moment to face the enemy on her own terms. Rukia unleashes her insanely powerful Bankai, Haka no Togame, a form so cold and so lethal that it instantly freezes F to death in a stunning, ice-laden spectacle. After the battle, Byakuya carefully holds his sister as she begins to undo the effects of her Bankai, warning her that without proper training, its overwhelming cold could kill her as well. Though victorious, Rukia is humbled by her brother's words, understanding that she must master her Bankai fully before wielding it without danger to herself. Elsewhere, as Isane tends to the gravely injured Rose and Kinsei, a new threat looms. The 11th Squad Lieutenant, Yachiru Kusajishi, senses a Stern Ritter approaching. The Quincy prepares to strike, putting both Isane and Yachiru on high alert as the relentless invasion of the Sarate continues. As the battle between the Soul Reapers and Stern Ritters intensifies, Stern Ritter V... God, I've given up on pronouncing these names. Stern Ritter V, we're going with that, reveals his power to disappear from his opponent's senses, essentially erasing his presence from their mind and reality. However, Lee finds himself increasingly frustrated as Yachiru, acting purely on instinct, manages to strike him each time he appears to attack. His annoyance grows as he realizes his ability to vanish from perception isn't foolproof against Yachiru's natural combat senses. Suddenly, the real Stern Ritter V, we're gonna go with Stern Ritter V again here, materializes, dismissing Stern Ritter, the other Stern Ritter, the fake V, as nothing more than a figment of his imagination. V, with a chilling calm, explains that his true ability is the power to make anything he imagines become reality. He nonchalantly deletes V from existence, revealing that Kinsei and Rojiro had already been killed during the battle, their deaths another product of his imagined will. Turning his attention to Yachiru, V demonstrates his brutal creativity by imagining that her bones are made of cookies. Delicious, incapacitating her immediately. However, just as he appears to have won, Kenpachi arrives on the scene with his usual ferocity, informing Isane of Unohana's death. Kenpachi's presence radiates raw power, which immediately intrigues V, who considers himself the strongest of the Stern Ritters. Eager to test his strength, V challenges Kenpachi and attempts to drown him by imagining Kenpachi trapped in a pool of water. Yet Kenpachi simply powers through the illusion, slicing V. Not one to give up, V then imagines himself with multiple firearms and missiles, unleashing an onslaught of attacks on Kenpachi. As the battle escalates, V doubles his power by creating another version of himself, intensifying his imagination to an even more dangerous level. With this newfound power, V imagines a massive meteor descending on the Sarate, sparking panic among both the Soul Reapers and the Quincy's. Undeterred, Kenpachi, having learned the name of his Zanpakuto, Nozarashi, releases his Shikai, which takes the form of a colossal meat cleaver. With one massive swing, Kenpachi obliterates the meteor, leaving everyone in all of his raw raw strength, and me questioning that's a sentence that was actually wrote into existence. Not yet finished, V conjures more than a dozen versions of himself, their combined imaginations creating an imaginary outer space where he intends to trap Kenpachi. Severely injured but unfazed, Kenpachi breaks through the fabricated cosmos and lands a devastating blow on V. Staggered and angered by Kenpachi's resilience, V, however, makes a fatal mistake. He tries to imagine his body as strong as Kenpachi's. However, in doing so, he unintentionally weaponizes his imagination against himself. V's mind, perceiving Kenpachi has an unstoppable force, causing his body to crumble under the weight of its own imagination. As V nears death, his true form is revealed. He has a third one now, I guess. He was merely a brain, his immense power the product of his mind's limitless imagination. Even in his final moments, V is undone by the very strength he sought to match, leaving Kenpachi victorious once more. Kenpachi, severely injured but driven by his instinct to fight, desperately searches for Yachiru, who has mysteriously vanished. His relentless pursuit is interrupted by the sudden arrival of Bombietta's Mastermind squad, Sternritter T, Sternritter Z, Sternritter P, and Sternritter G. Put that together, you get Tzpg. It's a good team name, just saying. Although Kenpachi initially holds his ground against them, their combined strength soon overwhelms him. Just as Kenpachi is about to fall, a powerful crash rocks the battlefield. Ichigo descends from the heavens, creating a gaping hole that leads to the Soul Palace. With minimal effort, Ichigo throws the 4 Sternritters away from Kenpachi, shocking both Soul Reapers and Sternritters with his newfound strength. His entrance is both a relief and a warning, as the enemy realizes they are now up against a special war power. Enraged by Ichigo's presence, Candace, Gazelle, Minonis, and Liloda activate their Vollständig forms determined to bring him down. However, Ichigo's speed and power prove insurmountable. Candace, in particular, unleashes a massive lightning bolt attack, but Ichigo counters with a devastating move. He fuses 2 Getsuga Tensho from his twin Zanpakuto into a new technique, Getsuga Jujisho, effortlessly severing Candace's arm. Before the others can regroup, Gazelle uses her twisted abilities to regenerate Candace's arm from a dead Soul Reaper's tissue. Just as they ready themselves for another strike, Bazb enters the fray, using Burning Finger 1 to shoot down his fellow Sternritters. With Bazb now seeking to claim the glory of defeating Ichigo for himself, the battlefield grows even more chaotic. More Sternritters soon arrive, surrounding Ichigo 8-1. Yet, Ichigo's focus remains on his ultimate goal, reaching Yhwach, who is now attempting to invade the Soul Palace through the hole created by Ichigo's descent. Unwilling to be held back, Ichigo prepares to fly toward Yhwach, but reinforcements arrive just in time. Renji, Rukia, Byakuya, Shuhei, Yumichika, and Ikkaku step in to confront the remaining Sternritters. As Ichigo flies off to confront Yhwach, he is blindsided by a sudden attack by none other than Uryu. Shocked and confused, Ichigo watches in disbelief as Uryu stands beside Yhwach. Uryu coldly unleashes the Licht Regen and a devastating barrage of spiritual arrows aimed directly at Ichigo. Before the attack can land, however, Chad and Orihime make a dramatic entrance, arriving from Hueco Mundo just in time to block Uryu's onslaught. Standing atop the battlefield, Yhwach, accompanied by Hashwolf and Uryu, begin his ascension toward the Soul Palace. As Ichigo, Chad, and Orihime look on, they are left in awe and dread of the overwhelming power that Yhwach possesses, realizing the monumental challenge that lies ahead. As Yhwach ascends to the Soul Palace, the sheer force of his power blows away everything and everyone in the vicinity. Shunsui, witnessing the cataclysmic event, questions why Ichibei would allow Yhwach to ascend so easily. The atmosphere is tense as Ichigo, momentarily shaken, faces rebuke from both Orihime and Chad for his hesitation in confronting Yhwach. Amidst the chaos, Kisuke arrives with a solution. He leads Ichigo's group to the 12th Division barracks where Mayuri Kurotsuchi had preemptively constructed a one-use replica of the Shiba clan's cannon to shoot them back up to the Soul Palace. However, the cannon requires a tremendous amount of energy to fire. Urahara reveals that Yoruichi and the remaining Vice Red have been collecting reishi from distortions in the human world caused by the Quincy's since their first invasion to fuel the cannon. Meanwhile, Byakuya finds himself surrounded by Candace and 2 other Quincy's. At the same time, Bazb locks onto Renji and Rukia as they emerge from the rubble. unstoppable. Tetsuzaimon also breaks free from the destruction, having shielded the now wolfish form of Seijin. Amid the carnage, though, Gazelle confronts Ikkaku and Yumichika, attempting to provoke them into attacking so she can zombify and control them. However, Yumichika, in this typical blunt fashion, exposes Gazelle as a male cross-dresser, which enrages Gazelle. In retaliation, Gazelle summons the semi-conscious zombified Bombietta Basterbine. Gazelle, revealing her terrifying ability to zombify and control Soul Reapers with just a drop of her blood, has a little bit of a drawback. For a Quincy to be controlled, they must first be dead. With a cruel grin, Gazelle admits to having personally executed Bombietta to turn her into a controllable zombie. The overwhelming power of Bombietta's explosive abilities leaves Ikkaku and Yumichika struggling on the verge of being zombified themselves. Just when things seem dire, Mayuri, Nemu, and Kurosuchi arrive on the battlefield, however. Mayuri, always prepared, reveals that he has already created a device to counteract Bombietta's abilities, rendering her useless as a pawn. Not one to be outdone, though, Gazelle responds by summoning an army of zombified Soul Reapers composed mostly of members from Squad 11. The battlefield swarms with reanimated warriors under Gazelle's control, but Mayuri has one more trick up his sleeve. With a gleeful grin, Mayuri unveils his own army of pawns, the resurrected Arankars from Grance's lab. These resurrected Arankars immediately begin tearing through Gazelle's zombified forces with brutal efficiency. In a final, desperate move, Gazelle summons her most formidable pawn, the zombified Hitsugaya. The sight of the once proud captain now under Gazelle's control shocks the Soul Reapers, with Hitsugaya now in the fray. As the battle continues, Mayuri intervenes, deploying a cocktail of drugs to awaken Hitsugaya's cognitive functions and regain control over him. Gazelle summons her remaining zombies to bolster her forces. The tide begins to turn as the others join the fray, but Mayuri's drugs allow him to wrest control from Gazelle, who meets her end impaled by her own creations. Meanwhile, Byakuya demonstrates the power of the Bankai by defeating Candace, Sternritter F, as Minanis and Latota observe. Hisagi unexpectedly turns against Byakuya, manipulated by Sternritter L. L uses his Reishi to make everyone with a soul fall in love with him, bringing Hisagi and later Minanis under his influence. L's ability even turns Senbonzakura against Byakuya, making Hisagi wield it against his own captain. Just as Byakuya is cornered, Mayuri and the reanimated Soul Reapers arrive. Kinsei, utilizing his Bankai, manages to dispatch L and knock out Hisagi. L, now desperate, pleads mercy from Latota, but she consumes him as retribution for his treachery. Feel sorry if you missed this one, but in a post-credits scene, Yuhabaha, Hashwalth, and Uryu make their grand entrance to the Soul Palace. In the annals of ancient history, Ichibei and a young Yuhabaha once sat down to draft a non-aggression treaty. However, Yuhabaha quickly saw through the deception, questioning why the Soul Reapers had enslaved the Soul King, a godly being and Yuhabaha's father, forcing him to divide the realm of infinite life into the world of the living, Quaco Mundo, and the Soul Society. To appease Yuhabaha, Ichibei offered the left arm of the Soul King. Despite this gesture, Yuhabaha chose to erase his father along with the world itself. In the present, Shinjumara Shutara and her holy soldiers engage Yuhabaha, Hashwalth, and Uryu. Despite the holy soldiers' valiant efforts, they are overrun by the Sternritter summoned by Hashwalth. However, Nianzol, a Sternritter from Yuhabaha's shadow, arrives to kill the holy soldiers but is swiftly immobilized and eliminated by Shutara. As Nianzol perishes, Urahara activates the cannon, sending Ichigo, Orihime, Chad, Yoruichi, and Ganju Shiba to the royal palace. Yuhabaha then summons the Sternritter Elite Guard and the newly promoted Askin. Lil, wielding his Reishi sniper rifle, shoots Shinjumaru in the head and attempts to destroy what he believes are the Squad Zero members' personal palaces. However, Shinjumaru reveals that they are in a fake soul palace, a trap devised by Hikifune. As Hikifune, Kurenji, and Nimaya enter, Nimaya showcases a failed Zanpakuto called Sayafushi, so sharp and smooth that no sheath could even contain it. Now that's good for cutting bread. The Schutzstaffel launch a coordinated attack on Nimaya, who effortlessly dispatches them all. Using his trump card, Yuhabaha escapes the trap and ascends directly to Ichibei's palace, setting the stage for the final confrontation. In the shattered remnants of the Squad 12 barracks, Kisuke is joined by the remaining Alongside Yushiro, Yoruichi's younger brother and head of the Shihoin clan, their mission is to ascend the royal palace. Meanwhile, Gazelle clings to life under the rubble, draining blood from the zombified Bombietta to heal, along with the others who are recovering. In a fierce aerial clash, however, Ichibei confronts Yhwach, demonstrating the power of his brush-shaped Zanpakuto. This unique blade doesn't cut physical objects, but instead slashes through names, having the power of anything it touches. When Ichibei cuts Yhwach, it halves his strength, forcing Yhwach to retreat. Kurenji engages Hashwalth using his Shikai, but despite Hashwalth being cut down, he is soon revived by Yhwach's power. Uryu faces off against Senjumaru on the branches of the royal palace. His attacks, Licht Regen, are repelled and returned to him by Senjumaru, knocking him out cold. In a shocking revelation, Nimaya discovers that Askin has survived thanks to Shrift D, which grants him near immortality by allowing him to calculate the perfect lethal dose of any substance he consumes. By controlling this, Askin induces fatal dosages in those around him. However, Kurenji uses his hot springs to purify Nimaya's poisoned blood, allowing him to overcome Askin and ultimately kill him. As Ichibei moves closer to Yhwach, the latter activates Ostvolken. These words! A terrifying power that strips the remaining Soldaten and Stern Ritters in the Serete, including Bombietta's group and Baz B, of their Reishi and Shrift abilities. This redistributed power revives Hashwolf and the Schutzstaffel, who then activates their Volkständig. In the ruins of the Serete, Hyoraku leaves his post to join 13th Squad Captain Jushiro Ukitake. Despite his severe illness, Ukitake has utilized Kamikake, a technique to stabilize his body, allowing him to rejoin the battle. Together, they prepare to confront the overwhelming forces in the royal palace. Spaghetti Monster, if you are up there, give me the power to recap this final episode. In the midst of the chaos, Lil quickly demonstrates the power of his Shrift X, which allows him to shoot anything within his line of sight without being blocked. Despite Hikifune and Kurijine's attempts to shield Nimaya with their Zanpakuto, Lil's ability pierces through, prompting Senjumaru to fly off with the injured Nimaya for healing. Hikifune then uses her Reishi seeds to attempt to entrap Pernita, while Askin employs a hit-and-run strategy against Kurenji. Nimaya manages to outmaneuver Lil's relentless attacks, eventually standing on Lil's barrel to strike him. Ichibei engages Yhwach in close combat using Hado, and others attack to close the distance. He activates his Shikai, turning his brush into a glaive that splashes black ink. Now this ink, as Ichibei explains, strips everything it touches of its name, rendering it powerless. Now, in their separate battles, we have Senjumaru, who manages to immobilize Gerard with her sewing needle, but is then pummeled into the ground. We have Hikifune's Reishi seeds that are annihilated by Pernita, leaving her gravely injured. Askin exploits Kurenji's underestimation, shooting him through, and Lil's ability extends only to his target, so when Nimaya tries to intercept him, Lil shoots through Nimaya, targeting only him. Now, Yhwach absorbs Ichibei's ink ability, turning it against him. The Squad Zero members, despite the Schutzstaffel's taunts, rises again. Nimaya reveals that they had sealed away their Zanpakuto to prevent destroying the heavens. He designates Senjumaru to handle the Quincy's and then, along with Kurenji and Hikifune, sacrifices themselves to release the seal on their true power. Empowered by their collective strength, Senjumaru activates her Bankai, Shigarami no Tsuji, trapping the Quincy's in a void dimension manipulated by her loom and cloth. This causes tremors across the Serete, Human World, and Hueco Mundo. Within her Bankai dimension, Senjumaru kills the Schutzwaffel Hashwolf and Uryu, using her cloth techniques. And at the end, Ichibei, still fighting Yhwach, uses his Shikai's ink to cover Yhwach, absorbing the color black from all living things to provide ink. With Zanpakuto's Shinuchi, Shirafude Ichimonji, Ichibei renames Yhwach to a frail black ant, stripping him of his power. Ichibei then crushes Yhwach under his foot like a bug and tosses him off the Soul Palace, seemingly ending his threat. But we know that's not going to happen. do we? It's gonna continue because there's a part 3 coming out. And also, by the way, thank you everyone for watching this recap. My throat hurts. If you found this helpful, drop a like to show your support and subscribe because I will be covering part 3 of Bleach every Saturday on the channel. Also, big shout out to Gamer Subs because by using my partner code CTactics, you can not only order free samples, but get 10% off all orders. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.